reason you're not able to understand Shona, but you can speak it, is called receptive bilingualism. So, this is the first episode of what we call Just Don't Know My Dialect Yet. I thought about it, and as somebody who has a mixture of backgrounds, diaspora experience and Zimbabwe experience, I'll just go through a bit of what I've noticed personally of some people who've been solely raised here in the diaspora and are not as excited about shamelessly speaking our native language, Shona. So we'll get back into the next topic. I had to Google what receptive bilingualism is. Just putting on my intelligent sunglasses, indoor-outdoor look. What do you think of them? Comment below. Anyway, so I had to look at what the meaning of receptive bilingualism is, and I just have to read on here. It occurs when a person has a significant exposure to a language, often from an immigrant parent, but primarily uses another language for speaking. So in everyone's case, sometimes you go to school, you learn English, and now because you learn English more and that's your primary language, you don't use your Shona as much. So you passively speak the Shona language, or sometimes you passively understand this Shona language, but you don't like speaking it. So passively understanding is because the people who are teaching you is your parents, but you yourself are not putting in an effort to practice as much because you're understanding, but you don't want to practice or have no confidence in speaking back. So I think, first of all, we need to become more shameless, because as you become shameless, just like how you picked up the English language, it requires some inputs. For some is reading books, some is watching TV, and also communicating, even getting the accent, which in Shona has dialects. The dialects are many, and you can only find out what dialect your parents speak by asking them and having that conversation, that what dialect do we speak? Then you know what you can learn and what resources you can pick up from. So key thing is, I'll put it as a point of reference, find out what dialect you speak, and then you ask them, what resources can I start using to practice, even if it just means speaking to the people at home. But some, I know, are reluctant to speak because of childhood trauma. It is a bit intimidating when somebody keeps saying to you, Taura, which means speak, and you haven't verbally registered what they are saying, because you don't say it, you just hear it. And to you and everyone around you, you don't hear it as often, besides from your parents. So if your parents become the not go-to voice that you want to learn from, you say, I don't want to sound like that, which even though they're encouraging you to speak your native language, you become reluctant. I don't want to sound like that. But if you're in an environment like how you get an accent where people speak like that, you choose to be like the people around you. So sometimes it's a form of association. Who are the people around you who you're comfortable in speaking Shona with? They will be the ones you can start speaking to. As a child, and as you get older, some people shy away from being the embarrassed one. but I'm sure until this level of understanding, you've had to learn some skills that even people at home didn't teach you, and you failed and failed until you became an expert. So this receptive bilingualism thing shouldn't be a thing. That's why I've put it as the first episode of I'm just don't know what my dialect is yet. Yet means there is room for improvement. Next is how you're going to practice this. Because in order to practice, you have to make a choice that you want to learn. And learning, like any language, you never learned with slang. You want to fit in, that's fitting in to learn the slang. But the learning requires you to know some keywords. And those keywords will come basically with from what you're interested in. What you're interested in, like anything, people learn what they like. So I'd recommend you can set that schedule up for yourself. What you like or what you hear the sound of is what you practice, even if it means through songs. But however, there is a warning with songs is you must practice what you understand. Because like anything, if you say something you don't understand and somebody gets offended, you'll be at the other end of somebody shouting at you and you'll be shocked. And then, like I say, another form of trauma you don't want. So find out what you're saying first before you start saying it to people, because some people don't take things as lightly from our background, you will know personally. Also, have some knowledge of key vocabulary. Key vocabulary may include respectful actions that your parents want you to say to them, because the way you greet or speak to an adult will definitely be different from the way you speak to your friend or your grandparents, anyone older than you. So make sure you take those into account when you try and learn the language. I am pro learning the language because everything you do in life starts from your values, your beliefs, and they may evolve. But for you to know what you have formed as your new beliefs, and even for generations after you, you need to make that decision from a starting point of your parents. Your parents are your resource. If you don't have your biological parents in your life anymore, there's your aunties and uncles and close friends who you feel comfortable with, who are there as a source of inspiration or aspiration to get you learning your language and being familiar with it, because you may choose to move back when you're older, you may not, but it's still important because with every language there's culture, and even though you're knowingly maybe practicing some activities, it's nice to be able to understand where they come from by asking the why question. And this is from the peer group I've already mentioned before. So this is just a bit of information that I think will be relevant to know. And if you want to learn some key Shona words, by the way, I'm not a teacher, I just know the language, and I'm also continuing to learn more language as somebody who lives in the diaspora. So there's always new words to learn, and like in English, you never know anything, and you're always a long life student. So be sure to follow on Shonaondemand and see what you can pick up. And if you have any other questions, you can use the comments below or the other social media platforms where you can get in touch with me, and then we can learn together. Think about it. Do you want to have a shameless mindset? If that's you, follow me.